It was Super Bowl Sunday of 2011. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I hadn't moved off the couch for over 24 hours. I was losing sensation in my legs and starting to lose sensation below my chest. God bless my wife. My wife knew I was very sick. I was too sick to help myself at that moment. She called my father, who was 4 states away, and he hopped on a plane immediately and headed out. He arrived late that night and carted me up and took me to an emergency room. I was unable to walk into the emergency room. They retrieved a wheelchair, wheeled me in, and I spent the next 6 to 7, 8 hours in the emergency room being poked by a whole host of doctors trying to figure out what had happened. They were unable to figure out what had happened, and thankfully my father was there, who was also a doctor, and convinced them before they discharged me without a diagnosis that I needed to be admitted to the hospital. Thankfully, they listened to them. They admitted me to the hospital that night. I had a whole host of another round of doctors come in, and ultimately I had a young intern. I shouldn't say intern, he was a senior resident, who had suggested that maybe we call in the head of rheumatology. I was incoherent at the time. I was very ill. I could not feel anything below my chest. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. I had ability to move my arms, but that was it. The head of rheumatology came in. I'll never forget it. He walked in. He had me sit up in bed. I threw up immediately. I was so ill. I felt awful. He told me to lay back down, and he was gone. I later found out the next day, because I was too sick that night, my dad had told me that the rheumatologist believed I had a very rare condition called transverse myelitis. Transverse myelitis is an autoimmune disorder where your immune system literally attacks your spinal cord. He had decided, together with my father, to put me on extreme high doses of steroids, which would suppress my immune system. I survived the night, only to have my dad wake up and to my father there telling me with tearful eyes that he didn't think I was going to survive the night. That experience had a profound impact on me. It later became known that the cause of that transverse myelitis was a rare side effect of a prescription drug. I remember vividly lying on the gurney alone. I spent 3.5 weeks in the hospital, and the thoughts that came across my mind: how was I ever going to be able to provide for my family trying to work in a wheelchair? How was I ever going to be able to pick up my 2 boys again, who at the time were 3 years old and 11 months? How was I ever going to be able to put my arm around my wife and go for a walk with her? And so many other questions. Rent was coming due. The fear of not being able to afford rent for your family when you are the sole provider was one that caused me enormous distress. I start to understand the feelings that my clients have when they come to me, and I relate with them. And I've come to realize that we don't all have to go through the same events to understand one another, because the emotions all feel the same, regardless of the event. So I decided that I would transition away from the practice I was in, which was at the time a law firm where I was an associate, and I wanted to go find my own firm. And I wanted to go find my own firm and develop my own mission statement and my own intent on what I wanted to do as a professional. And through God's grace and a whole host of wonderful people at that hospital, including my family who was there for me every step of the way, I somehow was redeemed. I somehow almost was resurrected. I felt like I died and came back again and got a second chance at life that I don't know if I necessarily deserved. But nonetheless, I felt like, having had that second chance and that second opportunity, I needed to do something with it and something meaningful. And so I started the Ochs Law Firm, and we dedicated our mission to engaging in litigations that would, number 1, make a difference for people, number 2, provide them hope, just like people had done for me, and number 3, have a broader impact on society. But I, today, have a very strong memory at 33 years old, having to literally relearn how to walk. standing, understanding how to move my legs, being encouraged by rehabilitation folks, by doctors, by my wife, even by my 3-year-old son. And having to make sure that every day I was up early, that I was going to decide that on that particular day I could try to do something that would hopefully get me back to recovery, or I could, I guess, raise the white flag. And I like being involved and being surrounded by people who choose not to raise a white flag, who choose to, even if the odds are against them, to move forward step by step, even if they got to crawl, to try to make themselves better. And those are the people I admire, and those are the people that I enjoy going to bat for. And those are the people that that I surrounded myself with in the hospital, and who pushed me each and every day to become better, to become stronger, not knowing at the time whether I would be able to recover or not. But thankfully, through God's grace, through people, through a whole host of hard work, I was able to make a full recovery. And now I want to dedicate my professional practice to helping those just like those who helped me.